Welcome my friends, welcome back to Project Task. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you've watched any of my previous videos, thank you for returning to my channel. Today we're doing another Blake 7 episode review from Season 4. As always, I will point out that this review will inevitably touch upon certain plot elements of this episode, and may even reveal developments for the series of Blake 7 as a whole. So if you haven't seen this episode, or anything else in terms of Blake 7, a huge spoiler alert is in order in case you wish to do a bit of Blake 7 catch-up prior to watching this review. You have been warned. Right, let's get to it, shall we? I've read some professional reviews of this episode which essentially state that the plot is boring, the characters are boring, and the main characters are hammy. I won't deny that Avon and Servalan are being laid on a bit more thick than we're used to, and the plot is a little confusing in places. However, I find games compulsively watchable, and not just because there's a huge rise in production quality. The visual effects and sound editing, certainly in terms of the explosions, is a huge improvement over the Roman candles we've had in the past. The extremely gory and dusty death that Tarrant subjects to a Federation guard is all done in camera and in one shot, and the sight of one of the inhabitants running about on fire almost seems out of place on a budget-limited show like Blake 7. Impressive. So, what is it that people don't like with this episode? From my point of view, as I've already stated, the plot is a little all over the place. There's this Garen character who doesn't really contribute anything. He has the right ID, which is needed only once, and even then it doesn't exactly help them much, and requires the aforementioned dusty death to get them out of trouble. There's this right question instead of the right answer, which I couldn't see how it fitted in at all. Even when Aurak announces they've completed that particular part, I was still scratching my head. And there's also this positive energy against negative energy, and apparently everything in the area ceased to exist. What, literally? And did Belkov die at the end? I assume he didn't, since A, he was actually worried about dying if Gambit didn't lock his controls, which she apparently did. B, he was laughing once she'd done this, so I'm assuming he thought he was out of harm's way. C, since he's the one who set all this up, I assume he knows what he's doing and wouldn't accidentally fly into a black hole. But then there seems to be the general consensus among fans and reviewers that he did in fact bite the bullet, and there was that echoey effect as he was laughing. But to be honest, the only reason I understand that he may have died is because the reviewers say he did. But we see his ship flying off out of shot, unharmed, undestroyed. Can someone help me and my tiny brain with this? Comments below, please. So why do I like this one so much? I've almost given the same plot whipping as I gave Season 2's Weapon, an episode that I think is very poor, and yet Games is going to get 2 stars from me. Well, firstly, let's look at Belkov. Unlike Kosa from the aforementioned Weapon, he's actually quite a likeable and interesting character. I see nothing wrong with the baddie of the week being a fat, game-playing, nerdy loner whose only companion is his computer. At least, he's a different sort of baddie, a chunk more interesting than pretty much any of the other guest characters we've had on Season 4 so far, even the ones in Traitor. And someone suggested that his farewell to Gambit was weird rather than touching. I found it the other way round. Quite touching to see this crazy but lonely man say goodbye to the only friend he has had, and Stratford Johns plays it perfectly. For me, I think that's the primary ingredient as to what makes an episode work: the characters. I think there's been a lack of well-rounded or well-presented characters over the last half dozen episodes. Either the parts have been too small, the characters not acted well enough, or maybe they are acted well enough, it's just the dialogue and development for them is below par. With Belkov, it doesn't take long to get a feeling for this eccentric chap. He seems jolly and engaging and yet malevolent and sociopathic. One minute we think we can trust him, the next we're reminded that he doesn't trust anyone. It's interesting to watch, and this character shines through. A massive elevation in performance and character that we've been missing for so long. Even Garen, a chap I've said has quite a few lines, joins the away team, gets shot twice, but when you look at it properly, does very, very little in the story. And yet I wouldn't say he was a bad character. Helped by the fact David Neal did plenty of Shakespeare in his career, there's that strong presence that such classical actors bring, that automatically elevates whatever scene they're in. I know I've said that good actors in Season 4 have been let down by the dialogue and character development for them, or lack thereof of course, but despite the debatable purpose of the character, I don't think those issues come to play here with Garen. He's an interesting character to watch, better than most of the characters seen so far this season, much as I've said about Belkov, and still not the most interesting character of the episode. We're doing okay here. I've already sang the praises of the production of this episode, at least the stuff that's happening on the planet, and I always enjoy watching Avon and Aurak having an argument, even if this is further evidence of Avon's growing eccentricity. There's a bit more camaraderie between the main cast. It's good for everyone to contribute something to the last set of games on the Orbiter, except for poor old Dana, although she does get to knife someone on the planet and shoot a guard who was already dead. I know some people don't like the crew playing games at the end, but given the insanity of Belkov and the circus he's created for them, what did people expect? The episode is called Games at the end of the day. Villa also comes out of his skin a bit more here. I can't remember any other time he shot someone in cold blood, and the dialogue between the crew flows as well as it ever has. It would seem odd that I would give such a generous style of allocation to an episode like this. I am evidently in the minority in the charm I find in this episode, and on another day, I dare say I could look at this episode from a different angle and rip it to shreds, much as I have done previous episodes that have let down the Blake 7 standard. I've already mentioned a few aspects of this episode I wasn't so sure about. It also has Servalan in it for what would be the second of 6 episodes on the trot, the most for Servalan when contained to just one series, and only one short of the 7-episode run she appears in between Series 2 into 3. Again, it would appear that if the Federation are involved, so is she. Could the blonde Federation guard played by James Harvey not be trusted to be the face of the Federation for this episode? I appreciate that Felden is valuable, but for Servalan to bother herself with a mining quota seems a little odd. See, I'm already ripping into it. I think it has to come down to the direction and the tone of the episode, and Vivian Cousins' direction is certainly worthy of praise. It doesn't do anything half-heartedly or reluctantly. Belkov says goodbye to his computer, and it's a sad farewell. Neither the script, nor the direction, nor Stratford John's care whether some will find it silly. This is a relationship that is coming to an end, and it's going to be given the attention it requires. We have already felt the pangs of grief when Zen died at the end of Season 3. Why should Belkov's sadness be denied in respect of Gambit? Maybe it's more a case of the fact that Games follows 7 episodes of dreck and mediocrity. Indeed, this is the first episode since the end of Series 3 I've given more than 1 star to, and episodes like Power, Star Drive and Animals are considered among the worst of Blake 7 ever. Maybe just a smidgen of quality was enough for me to start dishing out the praise, even though it's perhaps nothing more than a chap on fire and a dusty death. But maybe that's the service that Games performs for Season 4, and the series as a whole. I find that Blake 7 seems to have its confidence back, its mojo is restored in Games. It seems more content than the other episodes of Season 4, something that Headhunter and Assassin tried to do, and I think more or less succeeded, if it wasn't for the fee-fi-fo-fum of the android in the former, and the excruciatingly irritating Piri in the latter. Say what you will about the plot of Games, and you wouldn't be wrong. For me, it was a joy to watch the crew in this episode. More engaging, more fun, and when its guest stars are firing on more cylinders than the other Season 4 guest stars thus far, I will always take notice and enjoy it. Maybe this is more of a guilty pleasure for me, but sometimes one just has to shrug and say, what the hell. This episode certainly does. That concludes my review on Games. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, please share this video, please subscribe to my channel, and please check out my other Blake 7 episode reviews. And do you ever wonder if Belkov ever got into World of Warcraft? Nah, nor me. Bye guys.